Yo, what's up, YouTube? This your boy Pharaoh from Managed Voice Productions, and today we actually gonna learn how to create an 808 from scratch. Super cool. We're gonna be using a basic synthesizer, nothing more, nothing less. But also at the end, I'm gonna show you how you can spice up your 808 if you do want to take it a little bit further. So let's get started. All right, so I'm over here in a basic DAW. I'm here in Logic Pro X. I'm gonna create a software instrument, and what I'm gonna do is one of the stock synthesizers in Logic is Es2, and it's just a basic synthesizer. And what we want to do is we want to initialize whatever synthesizer we're using. So here in the ES2, one of my favorite ways to initialize it is by going over here to the tutorial settings, presets, and clicking on analog saw initialize. Just like that. Essentially, what this preset does is only activates one oscillator. And for this oscillator, I want to change that to the sine wave. And because a sine wave is the essential wave of bass drums, kicks, and bass lines. So what we're going to use is the sine wave. And then what we're going to do is we want to change the pitch, because if we play it right now, it just sounds like a basic sine wave. So turning it down -24 semitone, in other words, -2 octaves lower, it actually creates a low end sine wave. So this is the basic sound that we're going to be using to create the 808. So from here, what we want to do is we want to actually manipulate this sound in a way that emulates the classic 808 sound. And what we're going to do is over here in the matrix, we're going to be adjusting a few parameters. One of the first parameters is the pitch. So essentially the target is the pitch. It's pitch 1, 2, 3, but I'm only concerned with pitch 1. And via, I'm going to turn that off because we're not going to be using that for this time. But the source, we're going to be changing to envelope 1. And envelope 1 on the ES2 is a basic attack K envelope. So for the attack, we're going to be keeping it by default. And if we play it now, take a listen. We notice that there's no change. What we want to do is in the matrix, we want to make sure that the values of the pitch are being positively affected by the envelope. So I'm going to turn it up to the very max. And just like that, we hear something change. And with the decay, by adjusting it, we can achieve a variety of classic effects. So turning it up sounds like the bass drop of an EDM track. Really cool. Turning it down a little bit lower sounds like a kick. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn it down a little bit lower because we want it to be in between a kick and essentially like a bass, an 808. Now we have it. Although it's very clicky, when we listen to it, it has a click sound, and that's not what we want. So under the envelope 3, this adjusts the overall volume envelope for the entire synthesizer. So what I'm going to do is under the attack, I'm just going to turn this up just a little bit. So those first few milliseconds are shaved off. And now we have the basics of an 808. And I'm going to play out a little passage just so we can get started. Super cool. So just like that, we have a basic 808 passage. And then from here, we can add other effects. Now we can adjust the drive. I'm actually going to turn up that particular note. I was off just a little bit. Now I can even adjust the distortion. And then even further playing with the envelope, like adjusting the release, the sustain, the decay. even adjusting the attack a little bit more to my liking. So many parameters to play with. And the great thing about it is that as we add more effects, we may come back to the synthesizer to further adjust values. So what other effects do I add? So one of my favorite effects that is third party is a effect called 6060 Ultimate MC, and it's by Mac DSP, and essentially it is a software emulation of hardware 500 series racks. And this is really cool because essentially you get the analog sound inbox. So now when I play that with this red tape effect, which is one of my favorites for this particular one, we can really hear that energy right behind that. And because it's a little bit loud, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add adaptive limiter, so that way I don't blow out any of your speakers as we make some more adjustments. So now we have the basis of an 808, and even too, we may want to adjust some of those parameters, right? So like, even though we've added something else, we may want to come back to that Es2 to make further adjustments, whether that's to the distortion or that envelope. Really cool. Now, one of my other effects that I love is from Waves, and it is the Maserati from Waves and Maserati collaborated to create this amazing plugin for drums. And under miscellaneous in the presets, you actually have this really cool effect called 808 Sustainer. Now let's listen to what that's. As we see, it gets a little bit louder. We can always adjust that. And this is the basis of an 808, right? So from here, we can actually add some fun stuff, right? So let's add the contemporary, right? We got to add the clap, right? We got to get that counterpart, that counterplay between that two, just like that. Got a basic beat happening. And we're going to add a few more. Let's add a little bit more. Like that. We create a beat. Now we can adjust the tempo. And we can add so much more from here. And this is just the basics. We can add more plugins. Like there's one more. I love the R bass by Waves. Really adds that extra aggression if you're looking for that. Really cool effects. You have some by Dave Pensato, one of my mentors. But that's where we start, all right? Basics, and now adding those third-party effects, we can really take it to the next level. And I always love to change the order of the effects that I have, because that also contributes to the character, right? So for instance, I may have some third-party effects. Changing where they are in the audio chain significantly changes the timbre, right? So for instance, adding R bass towards the bottom has that sound, but then adding it towards the top has a completely different sound, right? So really cool what you can do with a basic synthesizer to really spice up your hip hop tracks. And 808s are also applicable to pop tracks. So many places you can put the 808. So Have fun, you guys. I really appreciate you tuning in. Once again, my name is Pharaoh here with Managed Voice Productions. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy making music. Take care.